What's up, everybody? Blessed be. My name is Mannun, and you're watching Witch in the Working, where we will be discussing all things witchy in and around, throughout and about, above, below, and beyond. Many of us as witches, Wiccans, and Pagans as a whole are very much in the closet for one reason or another. We all know that unfortunately the prejudices against our way of life are oftentimes stacked high against us. I would say one of the most common misconceptions that many of us pagans get, and most of the time the first thing a person thinks about when introduced to our way of being, is that we worship the Christian Satan or devil. This is a very unfortunate falsity for both Wiccans and most Satanists alike. Today we're going to talk about this stereotype and break down exactly what are the differences between Wicca and Satanism and uncover the truths about both of them. So roll the intro. Welcome back, everybody. I tried to bring in an actual Satanist to answer some of these questions, but the few people I reached out to were way too busy to relieve a spot in their extreme schedule to help me out. It is what it is. Regardless, I've done my best to research the satanic side of this video myself. So please understand that a lot of this is my personal research and not from a first-hand satanic understanding and years of experience being a Satanist. Like, I have tons of experience accumulated as a witch and a Wiccan, but that's the best I can give you. In fact, some of this is even verbatim from Wikipedia or another source I managed to locate in my research. But nonetheless, I've done the footwork and put this together for you in hopes of getting a better understanding of the differences and similarities of witchcraft and Satanism as a whole. So, what is Satanism? There are quite a few sects of Satanism, so to be clear, I'll be doing this comparison of Wicca and Satanism on the more popularized Satanism brought to us by Anton Szandor LaVey. Satanism in its very beginnings was first developed centuries ago simply by peasants who in essence were going against the church, so to speak. The people's lives were very hard in the Middle Ages, and the church wasn't very fair in making the lives of the peasants much easier. So out of rebellion against the church, some peasants simply did the opposite of what the church told them to believe in and worship. This really didn't do much for the peasants except generally give them a good feeling that at least they were doing something against the local establishment, so it brought a little pleasure to their lives in doing so. In 1966, one Anton Szandor LaVey created the Church of Satan. Now, this was not a church that worshipped the Christian devil and was in fact an establishment more directed towards supporting the understanding and acceptance of not supporting the main faiths and ideals that were being shoved down people's throats for centuries. Anton LaVey is known as the father of Satanism. He's also published a book in 1969 called The Satanic Bible. LaVey's teachings promoted indulgence, vital existence, undefiled wisdom, kindness to those who deserve it, responsibility to the responsible, and an eye for an eye code of ethics, while shunning abstinence based on guilt, spirituality, unconditional love, pacifism, equality, herd mentality, and scapegoating. In LaVey's view, the Satanist is a carnal, physical, and pragmatic being, and enjoyment of physical existence and an undiluted view of this worldly truth are promoted as core values of Satanism, propagating a naturalistic worldview that sees mankind as animals existing in an immoral universe. LaVey believed that the ideal Satanist should be individualistic and nonconformist, rejecting what he called the colorless existence that mainstream society sought to impose on those living within it. He praised the human ego for encouraging an individual's pride, self-respect, and self-realization, and accordingly believed in satisfying the ego's desires. He expressed a view that self-indulgence was a desirable trait and that hate and aggression were not wrong or undesirable emotions, but that they were necessary and advantageous for survival. Accordingly, he praised the 7 deadly sins as virtues which were beneficial for the individual. In essence, there's no one to worship but oneself and self-ideals. Some have said LaVey and Satanism is one of self-religion and self-spirituality. So, what is Wicca? Wicca is a religious movement that was resurrected by one Gerald Brousseau Gardner in the early 1950s. We are a natural-based religion and in fact follow and celebrate the cycles of the seasons and the moons. We have 8 Sabbats or holidays that we celebrate, and again, these in turn mark the quarters and cross-quarters of the seasons of the earth. Most Wiccans are conservationists and ecologically conscious and sensitive, as the earth is our temple of worship, so we seek to respect it and keep it around as long as possible. There's a lot more to be known about Wicca and witchcraft, and this will be answered and stated in the next moments of this video to come as I compare both Wicca and Satanism side by side. So, how many branches of Satanism are there? A lot like witchcraft, it's really hard to tell how many eclectic groups of Satanism have been developed over the years, both theistic and atheistic. To mention a few, there's the atheistic LaVeyan Satanism created by Anton Sanders LaVey in 1966, who again is considered the father of modern Satanism and whom established the Church of Satan and wrote the Satanic Bible. There's what's known as traditional or theistic Satanism, which is basically what most people think of when they envision Satanism, which is the worship of the being Satan. Another example of Satanism is the Temple of Set. In the resulting theistic Satanism, practitioners recognize the existence of one or more supernatural beings. The major god viewed as a father or older brother is often called Satan, but some groups identify the leader as a version of the ancient Egyptian god Set. Set is a spiritual entity based on the ancient Egyptian notion of Zephyr, translated as self-improvement or self-creation. Luciferians use the term Lucifer in its literal sense. The name means light bringer in Latin. Rather than being a figure of challenge, rebellion, and sensuality, Lucifer is seen as a creature of enlightenment, the one who brings light out of the darkness. Practitioners of Luciferian embrace the seeking of knowledge, delving into the darkness of mystery, and coming out better for it. They stress the balance of light and dark, that each depends upon each other. The Order of Nine Angels is a satanic and left-handed path occult group based in the United Kingdom, but with associated groups in various other parts of the world. Claiming to have been established in the 1960s, it rose to the public recognition in the early 1980s, attracting attention for its neo-Nazi ideologies and activism. Describing its approach as traditional Satanism, it has also been identified as exhibiting Hermetic and modern pagan elements in its beliefs by academic researchers. The Satanic Temple is a non-theistic religious group based in the United States with chapters in 21 US states as well as 2 in Canada and 1 in the United Kingdom. The group uses satanic imagery to promote egalitarianism, social justice, and the separation of church and state. Their stated mission is to encourage benevolence and empathy among all people. The term reactive Satanism or adolescent Satanism refers to groups of individuals who adopt the stories of mainstream religion but invert its value. Thus, Satan is still an all-evil god as defined in Christianity, but one to be worshipped rather than shunned and feared. So how many branches does Wicca have in comparison? There are many branches of Wicca that exist in the world today, as many as there are fish in the sea. Some of the more mainstream traditions are Gardnerian, Alexandrian, Georgian, Radical Fae, Blue Star, Dianic, and the Mannun Brotherhood, just to name a few. As far as non-mainstream Wicca, it would be impossible to calculate this, as eclectic groups pop up all the time, both small and respectably organized. Do Satanists practice magic and ritual? LaVeyan Satanism involves the practice of magic, which encompasses 2 distinct forms, greater and lesser magic. Greater magic is a form of ritual practice and is meant as psychodramatic catharsis to focus one's emotional energy for a specific purpose. These rites are based on 3 major psycho-emotive themes: compassion, love; destruction, hate; and sex, lust. Lesser magic is the practice of manipulation by means of applied psychology and glamour, or wile and guile, to bend an individual or situation to one's will. So in witchy understanding terms, greater magic for Satanists would be our concentrated spells, and lesser magic would be the act of persuasion and manipulation. Lesser magic, also referred to as everyday or situational magic, is the practice of manipulation by means of applied psychology. LaVey wrote that a key concept in lesser magic is the command to look, which can be accomplished by utilizing elements of sex, sentiment, and wonder, in addition to the utilization of looks, body language, scents, color, patterns, and odor. order. LaVey and Satanists do practice ritual also. Some of their known rituals that LaVey mentions are the Black Mass, satanic baptisms, and the Call of Cthulhu, to name a few. None of the ritual involves animal or human sacrifice. Children are usually banned from typical ritual, and alcohol is utilized, but drunkenness and drugs are strongly frowned upon. Tools that a satanic ritual would use are in fact very similar to Wiccan practice. For instance, a bell, chalice, sword, aspergillum, and parchment paper and candles, for instance. Sometimes the rituals include Christian blasphemies within their motto, but only to help rid oneself of Christian weights and attachment. In comparison, Wiccan practice incorporates magic and ritual in every aspect of its practice. I would imagine Wicca probably performs magic and ritual much more often and at a greater extent than Satanists do, but this is just my opinion. We as Wiccans incorporate magic and ritual as a way of life, and I don't know the extent of how far Satanism takes this philosophy. If anyone knows, please comment below, as I'm sure we're all quite curious. Regardless, Wiccans do practice ritual and magic both, and quite often, at least once a month, and most of us more than that. Do Satanists have holidays? A LaVeyan Satanist's most important holiday is one's own birthday. Other than this, they also celebrate Walpurgisnacht, Halloween, fall and spring equinoxes, and winter and summer solstices. Wiccans, in comparison, have 8 major holidays, which consist of the quarters and cross quarters of the year, and are Imbolg, Ostara, Beltane, Midsummer, Lugnacid, Mabon, Samhain, and Yule. Do Satanists worship a god or goddess? Some sects of Satanism do worship and follow a god, but in LaVeyan Satanism, Satan is not worshipped as an external being, but more seen as a symbol of pride, liberty, and individualism, and it serves as an external metaphorical projection of our highest personal potential. They do not believe in Satan as a being or person or god. In essence, modern-day LaVeyan Satanists worship the self. Most all Wiccan worship incorporate both a god and a goddess in their practice. Some Wiccans simply see these two forces as feminine and masculine forces and leave it at that, while others literally incorporate gods and goddesses from ancient cultures such as Egyptian, Greek, Roman, or Celtic, and involve examples such as Ra and Isis, Zeus and Aphrodite, Cernunnos and Caridwen, or Diana and Apollo, to name a few. Some even incorporate entire pantheons in their worship. Does Satanism have a Bible? Yes, modern-day LaVeyan Satanism, founded by Anton LaVey, has the Satanic Bible, in turn written by Anton LaVey. This Bible has been in print since 1969 and is treated as an authoritative document which effectively functions as a scripture within the Satanic community. The Satanic Bible has been described as the most important document to influence contemporary Satanism in most Satanic sects, not just LaVeyism. Wiccans, on the other hand, do not have a Bible of any sort. Many Wiccans establish their beliefs and direction from early folklore and stories and mythology from ancient cultures that they've chosen to work with. In some of the more major paths of Wicca, such as Gardnerian, we do not have a Bible per se, but we do have a set foundation of direction, guidelines, and our own mythology that is passed down from generation to generation. Is there blood sacrifice in Satanism? In modern-day LaVeyism, there is no blood sacrifice that takes place. In fact, much like Wicca, many modern-day Satanists are against the harming of others in their process of everyday life dabbles. However, it is a recognized and well-displayed tenet of modern-day Satanism to follow the Old Testament rule of an eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth, which in my opinion follows the same Wiccan practice of "and it harm none but take no shit." As I mentioned earlier, as the Wiccan stance on sacrifice, there is no blood sacrifice that takes place in most all Wiccan practice. Any blood sacrifice may involve bloodletting of one's own blood, usually drafted from the body via a finger prick, or in a woman's case, her own menstrual bloodletting. I've never known a Wiccan to take the life of another being, animal, or human in honor of the gods or for magical purposes. Are there rules or laws in Satanism? The 9 Satanic Statements are a set of 9 assertions made by LaVey in the introductory chapters of the Satanic Bible. They're considered a touchstone of the contemporary organized Satanism that constitute, in effect, brief aphorisms that capture Satanic philosophy. Number 1, Satan represents indulgence instead of abstinence. Number 2, Satan represents vital existence instead of spiritual pipe dreams. Number 3, Satan represents undefiled wisdom instead of hypocritical self-deceit. Number 4, Satan represents kindness to those who deserve it instead of love wasted on ingrates. Number 5, Satan represents vengeance instead of turning the other cheek. Number 6, Satan represents responsibility to the responsible instead of concern for psychic vampires. Number 7, Satan represents man as just another animal who, because of his divine spiritual and intellectual development, has become the most vicious animal of all. Number 8, Satan represents all of the so-called sins as they all lead to physical, mental, or emotional gratification. Number 9, Satan has been the best friend the church has ever had as he has kept it in business all these years. The 11 satanic rules of the earth. Number 1, do not give opinions or advice unless you are asked. Number 2, do not tell your troubles to others unless you are sure they want to hear them. Number 3, when in another's home, show them respect or else do not go there. Number 4, if a guest in your home annoys you, treat him cruelly without mercy. Number 5, do not make sexual advances unless you are given the mating signal. Number 6, do not take that which does not belong to you unless it's a burden to the other person and they cry out for them to be relieved of it. Number 7, acknowledge the power of magic if you have employed it successfully to obtain your desires. If you deny the power of magic after having called upon it with success, you will lose all you have obtained. Number 8, do not complain about anything to which you need not subject yourself. Number 9, do not harm little children. Number 10, do not kill non-human animals unless you are attacked or for your food. Number 11, when walking in open territory, bother no one. If someone bothers you, ask him to stop. If this person does not stop, destroy him. The 9 satanic sins. These sins, published by LaVey in 1987, outline characteristics Satanists should avoid. Number 1, stupidity. Number 2, pretentiousness. Number 3, solipsism. Number 4, self-deceit. Number 5, herd conformity. Number 6, lack of perspective. Number 7, forgetfulness of past orthodoxies. Number 8, counterproductive pride. Number 9, lack of aesthetics. In comparison with Wicca, Wiccans basically follow one core tenet of what would be rules or laws, and this is, and it harm none, do as I will. This does not mean that Wiccans will turn the other cheek every time they're smited or disrespected. No, in actuality, I have never known a witch to just idly stand by and take a metaphysical ass kicking and not call to arms in response. The term "and it harm none but take no shit" is more the cry of the witch or Wiccans as I know them. Are there covens or churches in Satanism? In 1956, LaVey purchased a house in San Francisco in which he painted it black and hosted satanic events and workshops at this house. Because of this, you could officially call this place of residence the First Church of Satan as it was established. LaVey also established branches of the church known as grottos in various parts of the United States. These included the Babylon Grotto in Detroit, the Stygian Grotto in Dayton, and the Lilith Grotto in New York City. As time went on, these grottos were disbanded, but not before many other establishments and sects of Satanism based off of LaVeyan Foundation were constructed and deployed. To this day, much like eclectic Wicca, there are numerous self-proclaimed satanic covens that exist amongst the numerous satanic sects that exist, as well as set buildings and establishments that proclaim to be satanic places of practice. So to answer the question, yes, there are, but the structure of many of these satanic practices are so loose that the exact label of coven can be interchanged with numerous labels individually given per any particular satanic group's liking and choosing. The same goes for established buildings of practice or churches. There are some that are known and legitimized, and many that are simply homes or rented establishments that are not necessarily legitimized in theory. As Wiccans, there are tons of covens and quite a few official Wiccan churches. The Covenant of the Goddess, the Wiccan Church of Canada, the Aquarian Tabernacle Church are a few such Wiccan churches that exist today. As far as covens are concerned, most groups of witches or Wiccans that gather together will label themselves either a coven or a grove depending on their preference. How would one become a Satanist? Joining the Church of Satan requires a one-time $225 fee and an application form. In addition to the fee, you also need to compose a statement that you sign and date requesting to join the Church of Satan. Some questions in the application refer to the Satanic Bible, so read up before applying. If you're an active member in the Church of Satan, you might be involved in church activities and be asked to represent Satanism at some events. Rising through the hierarchy, if you live a good life as a Satanist, you can rise through the church ranks. The 6 ranks include registered, active member, witch/warlock, priestess/priest, magistra/magister, and maga/magus. If you hold a 3rd, 4th, or 5th degree, you're considered part of the priesthood of the Mindies and given the title of Reverend. How does one become a Wiccan? One of the easiest outlets for finding a Wiccan covenant is searching the internet. Google your specific area for pagan practices and events. Another tip is to look for a local craft store, as many times these establishments can be a communication hub for many groups and events in the nearby area. There are thousands of Wiccan groups and covens that are always ready to accept seekers in their ranks. You'll just need to do the footwork and find the right fit for you. So that's going to wrap it up for this episode of Witch Into Working. My consensus with this comparison between Wicca and Satanism is that there are quite a few similarities between Wicca and Satanism, as well as an equal amount of differences. We both are similar in that we strive to be self-supportive and think for ourselves on our paths, and not allowing the mainstream Abrahamic religions to dictate our steps and roads that we take as we walk through life. We both have a respect for nature and living beings that share this earth with us. We both are definitely the underdogs of society's outlook, and we both deal with stereotypes and dark accusations from those who do not understand and accept our ways of life. We both have established churches, although it's quite rare to pay for becoming a member of a Wiccan church or coven as the Satanists do. We both perform rituals and spell work. Neither one of us worships Satan, nor believes Satan is actually a being. We definitely differ in that Wicca is an established religion and we do worship a god and goddess, or the masculine and feminine, whereas most common day Satanists are atheists in nature. Satanists have a Bible that they follow, whereas Wiccans do not, but we do have a set core tenet of beliefs and standards that have been developed over the years. We as Wiccans tend to be more group-oriented at times, forming covens, whereas Satanists do have groups too, but most Satanists are a solo bunch, choosing solitarity over group conglomeration. Is solitarity even a word? No, they prefer to be solitaire, is my point. Anyway, do you have anything you would like to add? Do you disagree with anything I have mentioned? Please let me know in the comments below. Please remember to click that subscribe button and ring that little bell to be reminded of future episodes to come. I love you guys and gals. Until next time, blessed be.